All right. I think we are live now. I am not going to pretend like Zoom webinars is my favorite tool or one that I understand very well. But thank you, everybody. I am absolutely delighted to be joined today um, by a crack team. We've got Michael from Launch Control, Stephanie from Left Main, and of course, myself from smartPhone. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to kick this off now and figure out how to share my screen, which may be difficult. One second. Does everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, like I say, you'd think I'd be good at technology, but Zoom's not my thing. So today I'm really excited about this webinar because, bringing together the different communication channels and trying to really understand how communications channels can work for you is something that I think a lot of people, a lot of times they kind of skip past that. And so today I'm super excited to be joined by Michael and Stephanie, so that we can really take a deep dive into not only how communication channels can be used across that life cycle of the deals, but also how you can center in on your CRM to make sure that you've got that system of record, that source of truth, and that kind of hub for all your activities. So to kick us off, I'm going to bring in Stephanie and Michael just to give a little introduction. Stephanie, why don't you start, and then I'll get Michael and then myself.
Awesome. Okay, ladies first. I like it. You're so polite. So I'm Stephanie. I'm the founder of Left Main REI. My background is in real estate investing myself. And so the CRM that I built with Left Main with my fabulous team has been centered around real estate professionals and optimizing their workflow, making them more effective, more efficient. And kind of my thesis in general is that the more we can centralize and the more that we can integrate directly and the easier we can make it to have a single source of truth, the better we will all be. So I'm very excited to partner with Jordan and Michael so that we can continue to do that, right? I think that's kind of my big goal is to create the center of the wheel that collaborates really well with amazing tools. And so that when you guys log into your system every day, you can see everything that's happening and you can feel really comfortable about who are the highest priority leads and what works.
Michael, do you want to give a little introduction as well?
Yes, I'm the head of strategy and solutions at Launch Control. I've worked closely with Stephanie and Jordan over the years. And yeah, just to echo what Stephanie said, like having everything be having a source of truth for everything and being able to utilize your different marketing channels together rather than as separate entities can really drive higher conversion rates and better efficiency for your entire business. So that's part of what we want to discuss today is just bringing everything together into a centralized conversion funnel.
Absolutely. And for myself, if you're a smartphone customer, you know who I am. And, one of the things that really kind of is our core proposition is the integration with the CRM and making sure that the communication streams that we're responsible for are really seamlessly built in, because your CRM is going to be the tool that you use. And to make sure that all those communication channels are so seamlessly done, it's something that Michael cares very much about with Launch Control. It's something that we care very much at smartphone. And to kick this kind of discussion off, I want to I'm going to just go over to my Zoom. What I want to do is I just want to lay the foundation for what the discussion that Stephanie, Michael, and I are going to have today. And it's centered around a real core belief that there are some assumptions people make, particularly in the sales process, that we want to break down a little. And one of the assumptions is that, first of all, the sales process and the sales cycle is linear, right? Is that it is this follows this, follows this, follows this. Cold goes to lead, opportunity, close one. I mean, okay, technically those are potentially the stages, but the truth of the matter is that life's not that simple. And one of the challenges is when you look at your lead process in that linear fashion, you start to end up pigeonholing your tools. You start to think of communication channels as only applicable in one part of the process. And so you think of, smart dialer as this part, or launch control is this part, and my smartphone is this part. And that's simply not true. And it means you're not getting the best either of your lead process or your tools. And so what we want to flip today on, what kind of flip the conversation on its head, Stephanie, Michael, and I, by understanding, first of all, that the process to closing a deal is very rarely straightforward. I mean, sometimes you get those wonderful deals that just happen. It doesn't happen that often. You have to warm, and then you lose it, and then you follow up. And I mean, all I'm told about, I'm told day after day by people is the follow-up is important. Well, the follow-up's important because it isn't that simple. And the truth around your communication channels is that you need to start thinking about them in much broader ways. And that's really where Michael and Stephanie and I want to have that conversation tonight, is to stop thinking of it like, for instance, a tool as just being applicable to a cold prospect, and start understanding how you build up communication channels around the core of your CRM, and that those channels will ebb and flow throughout the course of the relationship. And you have an opportunity to actually build stronger relationships by making sure that those channels, you're not shutting them off, but that you're continuing to use them to build the best possible relationships. Now, why don't I turn that over now to Michael and Stephanie, so that you guys can weigh in on the sort of core proposition of what we want to talk about tonight.
Yeah, I'll kick off and say, I think you articulated that really well. Yes, we like to try to oversimplify things and make it really linear, but the truth of the matter is there are these micro cycles within each of those categories, right? So starting with, let's say, an opportunity, generally, the way people think about it is they're like, I don't need to power dial these things. I don't need to power text these things, right? What ends up happening is when you have opportunities that cool off, they become only dependent on manual clicking or manual processing. We've kind of abandoned these amazing tools that we have to go through our huge pipeline that's just kind of sitting there, right? Now, all of a sudden, they've cooled off a little bit. Our sales team is more focused on the cream of the cream, the hottest person they just talked to, right? The newest opportunity, the newest appointment that they have. And then their growing pipeline of long-term follow-ups, for example, just kind of sits there. And we're not using these tools that we can have mass outbound communication with. So just as an example, we can treat long-term follow-ups in an opportunity stage, just like we treat a cold prospect, right? We can use these amazing tools, and then we'll be able to resurrect more of these homeowners, more of these opportunities. So I think if we look at each of those sections in its own little microcosm, then we kind of unlock our ability to use these amazing tools.
Michael, do you want to come in on that?
Yeah, I think that one of the things that we want to try to do always is to prep for the closing of a deal, right? And when we close a deal, obviously getting onto a discovery call is a really important moment, and that moment might last anywhere from a minute to 5 minutes. Right, but the length of a deal is much longer than that, and it involves many touch points along the way. So at the end, when I have a signed contract and I'm ready to turn that over to a buyer, I'm going to want a phone number contact for that homeowner. I'm going to want an email contact for that homeowner. I'm going to want an open text thread that I can go back and ping them on to get them on. I am not going to want to have everything, all of my engagement with that homeowner, pinned to a single channel. Because if I lose that channel, I lose that opportunity, I lose that deal, and I don't want that to happen. So I want to try to front load as much as possible, keeping channels open, and then, as we'll discuss, finding ways to make those channels work together so that the homeowner feels like they have multiple ways to connect with my company, and multiple ways to connect with solutions that I provide. So it's basically reverse engineering from that, where you want to be at close of contract with the homeowner.
I think that's such a good point. Go ahead, Stephanie.
I was just going to say re-engagement is huge. The re-engagement process and the tools that you use for that are really important. And then, of course, having where one of my personal pet peeves is having these disjointed systems, like moving your stuff from all these different locations, then losing sight of what actually works, and all the different communication channels that we have open with our potential customers, our potential homeowners, right? So there's a beauty in centralizing it and then using these re-engagement tools. For example, an opportunity, we talked about a text message outbound to long-term follow-ups, for example. We can do the same thing with power dialing. Why disable our sales folks? Why not put them in, grab that list from Smart Dialer and call everybody? If I'm going to spend, a few hours calling leads, I'm going to want to call the people that have already said they were interested. Maybe they just fell off the front of the truck, right? And I can re-engage them. And in some senses, it's even easier to re-engage those folks than a completely cold lead. So yeah, absolutely. I think that re-engagement cycle is important.
Before we dive straight in, we're going to dive into some launch control elements first, but I do want to emphasize on this slide just the fact that it is really critically important for you to kind of lay out your communication channels in front of you and really understand that there is value in each of them, probably across every stage of a lead. And if you don't have that in your head, you're closing off, as Michael pointed out, you're closing off opportunities to communicate. You're closing off. If I've communicated with someone via a channel, if I've had communication with people via launch control, why in earth would I ever close that channel down? I've had communication with them. Like in the same way, if I've had communication via a call in smartphone, good Lord, don't close any of those things down. Use the whole board to make sure you're able to reach your customers in the right way, or your leads or your prospects. It's a really important thing that you do that. Now, Michael, I want to bring you in on this now and start out with a bit of the kind of the ways that launch control works really well, particularly with Left Main on achieving this.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things, like anybody using Left Main is, well, I shouldn't say anybody, but almost everyone using Left Main has a pretty big, pretty sophisticated team. There's often a round robin system. There are often multiple BDRs that are within the system, but you're speaking to individuals. You're speaking to an individual homeowner. So I want to get people around the idea of, one homeowner, one thread. This is just a play on something that I use internally for our team, which is, I say this ad nauseum, one brand, one thread. So that if someone's speaking to our sales team, I don't want to change phone numbers when they get handed off to our customer success team. I don't want to change phone numbers when our marketing team wants to communicate. I want that investor to have one channel with us, and within that one channel, they can reach anyone on our team, and they know that channel is a direct connect to launch control. Right? So launch control has the ability to give you a direct connect to a single homeowner, and you can do handoffs within your team so that people are continuing to use that existing thread and giving that homeowner an experience of feeling like they're plugged into your company and not being passed from someone who is doing the initial vetting to someone who may be a decision maker, then passed on to someone who's the final decision maker, then passed on to someone else who's going to deal with contracting. And they're feeling very passed around instead of feeling like they're part of, or they're directly connected to a company that's providing solutions for them. Right. So with that kind of caveat in mind, this example that I gave here is if someone you engage through cold prospecting, you engage a lead, and you're able to get to the point of discovery call. Now, at this point, a lot of people will cut things off, right? And they'll just push to CRM, right? And it gets forgotten. But with the Left Main integration with launch control, you have, and Stephanie will show this in just a minute, you have full visibility of all the conversations that started in launch and the effectiveness of those conversations from your Left Main dashboard. Right, so there's no reason, even when you push to CRM, to let that thread close. You have an open conversation. So it's just a question of how that you use that to either create a handoff process within your team structure, or at the very least, to offer value. right? So in this case, what I put here as examples is if you wanted to seed a post-discovery call or post-push to CRM value-based drip, where you just answer some of the frequently asked questions, right? So one of the questions on here is, what do we do with the properties that we buy? Right. And just being very transparent about that and answering it. Another is, what happens if, what we're offering isn't a good fit, or what you're offering isn't a good fit? Then, being transparent, that because there's a lot of, this is something that I think is very fixable within the real estate investment space. You guys have seen a lot of, with wholesaling being kind of having a negative light shined on it recently in a few states. And one of the things is that there is a perceived kind of predatory aspect to some of the outreach. But the truth is, when you really get down to it, is that when you get to the point where someone is working with you, it's solutions based. You're getting them out of a jam. You're providing something that they need. And when they're able to create that connection with your company, they end up walking away in a good space. It's just getting to that space of transparency, getting to that place of open information sharing is too often left for discovery call or later, and isn't put up front and early. By putting it up front and early, you're standing out from the crowd. You're making yourself a more trusted company, or making your company a more trusted resource to work with. And you're giving yourself an opportunity to really advance those deals to the point of close, right? So the ways that you can use this open channel are varied. Again, a value-based drip automation, a drip automation that's focused on alternative solutions, a direct handoff from, if your BDR takes the initial discovery call and says, I really want to get you on the phone with my colleague Stephanie. She's done 100+ deals just like this in the area. She's your best possible resource. Can I have her call you in 5-10 minutes? Right. That's exactly what we do with launch leads, our done for you service, and it works incredibly well because it's to the homeowner. It is a live handoff, right? And so Stephanie, whether she jumps in on the text and says, "Hey Michael, I just tried to call you. What's a better time?" Or, "Hey Michael, I'll call you in 2 minutes. Looking forward to chatting." Whatever it is, from the homeowner's experience, they're speaking to a single company, and that matters.
Absolutely.
I'll just pop in here super quick, and I don't want to steal your thunder, but everything we do is service oriented, right? And I think we kind of have this transactional mindset because we do transactions, right? And we do one transaction generally with a homeowner. But if we position ourselves as a service provider, whether you're an investor or you're a traditional agent doing residential, doing commercial, it's still the same. Positioning ourselves as service providers and communicating that way is what our customers expect, right? You'd expect that if someone was coming out to the house to fix your HVAC machine or whatever, right? You'd expect to have single thread communication and handoffs, reminders, drip sequences, even thank yous, survey, like you'd expect that. And I think that in order to position ourselves as those professionals and those service providers, we need to adopt that mindset instead of just a transactional, like, bang, I'm gonna shoot off a million text messages and no one cares about handoff, and it's a numbers game. It's a total numbers game, right? That's not real life. And to your point, Michael, I think that can give a subset of us a really bad reputation.
I think that's a critical point. If I can jump in before we move to the next slide, Michael. I think that's really important because we've now, with smartphone, we've got thousands of real estate investment companies using our platform on a daily basis. And when I see the best practices, it's always service-based. It's always relationship-based. It's never throw things at the wall. It's never, I'm just gonna pound them until, until essentially the phone goes dead. It is always finding solutions. It is always building relationships, nurturing relationships, and finding positive solutions. That is 100% where the best players are. And so that's, to me, when you see the best players, you want to model on that behavior, right? You want to look at that behavior. And it's exactly what Michael and Stephanie are talking about, that sort of relationship basis and that service basis, as opposed to the simply throwing things at the wall continuously in the hope that something will stick. That's simply not best practice. It's not the best model, and it's not how the best performers actually win their deals. So,
Right.
Michael, do you want to take forward the next slide?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So one of the other things that I think is really important, especially when you're using a sophisticated system like Left Main, is by the time you get to Stephanie, you are very likely using multiple marketing channels, right? You probably got some PPC, you're probably doing some outreach via text, probably have a cold calling system, might have a TV ad in place. So there's a lot of different marketing channels that you're pursuing. And what a lot of people do is they treat it as versus marketing, right? So like, what's my ROI on text? What's my ROI on cold call? And you'll see this a lot with younger investors or newer investors that will run from one marketing opportunity to another rather than keeping a baseline foundation of marketing efforts, knowing that over the course of 12 to 18 months, there's going to be spikes where PPC is going to perform better, spikes where text is going to perform better, spikes where some of the cold calling efforts are going to work better. But overall, those multiple channels are all necessary in order to achieve the kind of deal flow and scalability that you want. So the question becomes not a question of which channels do I need, but a question of how do I make those channels work in concert with one another so that I'm able to capture from any given data set the most deals possible, right? And again, it's for homeowners, we want to give them, from a text perspective, we want to give them a one thread connection to your company or to our company. But from just a general perspective, you want those people that are contacting you to feel like they have direct access to your company, and to help yourself get to that point where I opened up, which is the point where you've already closed the deal, and you did that because you had email, you had text, you had phone, you had all these connections to the homeowner, all funneling back to your company as a solutions-based provider. So what we can, I don't want to take too long on this slide, because this really comes down to coming up with the best possible strategy for the different marketing channels that you're using, right? So if you have PPC ads coming in, we can help set it up so that every day, whatever number of leads that you have coming in, they're getting a text touch point saying something along the lines of, we got your inquiry through our online ad. We also, wanted to let you know you have direct access to our team here. You can text us anytime if that's easier. And you can get them to opt in essentially to a text thread. And then you've got them on that text thread, and you can activate the different launch control functionality, like the drip campaigns, the tagging feature, which will show up, the custom tags which will show up in your Left Main dashboard, so you'll be able to see, exactly how that fits into your pipeline, for instance. But what I'd like to offer for everyone on this call, because it is very strategy based, is whether you're coming in new. If you're coming in new, you'd want to talk to our sales team and let them know that you want to take advantage of this. If you're already working with Launch and you want to just get the integration better set up with Left Main, and you want to take advantage of what I'm about to offer, then just let your CS lead know. But for anybody on this call, I'll offer a 20-minute strategy consultation with myself and the CS team, and we'll look at exactly what marketing channels you're utilizing now and how we can funnel those into, how we can get them to work together, funnel them into Launch as a conversion channel, and then how we can use that to advance them through stages in Left Main as a Left Main user. So yeah, free 20-minute consultation with me and the CS team. Anybody that wants to take advantage of that and look for ways to bring their marketing channels together.
Fantastic. And just for those of you on the call, don't worry, we will be sending some emails after this webinar to make sure you have the links that you can use to get that fantastic strategy call with Michael. We will, and of course, the links for smartphone and for Left Main as well. And also, just before I pass over to Stephanie, I want to remind you, if you do have questions, we're going to hold questions to the end so that we can have a proper discussion. But if you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to use the Q&A functionality in the Zoom webinar so that we can know what sort of questions are coming and we can address some of them. Now, I'm going to throw over to you now, Stephanie, and talk a little bit about sort of Left Main, single source of truth, and what that means to you.
Yeah, so I mean, if you could actually click back to the last slide just for super quick. You know, as I said in the beginning, my shtick is kind of one single source of truth, right? There's a lot of tools that are fantastic and they're developed honestly every day. My thesis is let's have them integrate with one place so I know what's happening in all my channels and I can use all these tools to their highest and best use, and we can recycle and we can re-engage and we can, you know, connect with all these things. In that previous slide there, it's a little bit blurry on my computer here, so hopefully it's not for everybody, but that little circle is sent SMS. So just a quick example of how you can see what was being sent in launch control inside of Left Main. So you may have a set of team members who just sit in launch control and manage conversations. I can live see what happens in Left Main too, so I can pick up that relationship and move it forward. And as Michael was saying, the highest performers are those who are layering marketing efforts. And each marketing effort gives us different information. So if I'm about to talk to this homeowner and they just had a whole conversation with, you know, Sally's team over there, and they mentioned a couple things, it would be ridiculous for me to not pick up that conversation if I'm having a phone call with them, right? Like, oh, I heard about your neighbor. Like, you know, Sally told me such wonderful things about you. Let's just keep going, right? Instead of this disconnect and this confusion, it creates a bad service experience, right? And if you click forward one more, this is just an example of what it looks like to have all of those specific leads organized nicely. And these are all prospects. So I can see here in my single source of truth what stages all of those things are on. So I can facilitate that communication, I can share that data, and I can layer my marketing approach. You know, Michael talked about PPC. PPC does really well with text messaging. And so it's same thing with mail, right? Like why not text somebody, you know, and put them into a drip sequence or a cadence or a launch control campaign when they've opted in off PPC? Just like, why wouldn't you spend $1 and send them a mail piece, right? Like these are people who've raised their hand. They deserve a layered marketing approach, and in a way that makes sense, that you can actually tell what happened and what works, right? Because that's what we want in the end, is we want to be able to make really good decisions. First piece of making good decisions is having really good data and having good integrations. And then we can actually pull some levers in our business, right? And so if then on the next slide there, we have a little quick dashboard of all the different campaigns that have worked. So on the left-hand side, you see campaigns in launch control that have converted to live leads. And then on the right-hand side, you see active prospects of launch control and what stage they're on there. So I can have a bird's eye view of this marketing channel and how it's performing and what kind of rating those prospects are. So you see a lot of them are cold and are trying to warm up. And then on the left-hand side, look how many of them converted to hot, and then which campaign and launch control worked the best. I'm pulling all kinds of different data. I have different ways people have opted in, through mailing lists or from cold call lists or homeowner lists, to people who have actually opted in off a different channel that we're nurturing in launch control and then converting. So just a kind of a quick way of seeing how this is all tied together in one single source of truth.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You want to dive in?
Yeah, if you don't mind. So, Stephanie, one of the things that I think is really powerful with the integration is using the custom tagging feature within Launch Control in conjunction with the stages within Left Main. So if you're moving, because oftentimes different people on the team will be engaged at different stage levels within Left Main. So if you're able to use the custom tagging feature within Launch to also show what stage that those are at and who owns those individual stages, then you're able to track not only where the lead started as in this case a cold prospect via launch control, but you can also see in the deal flow stage where did it go all the way through to contract? Did it stall somewhere in one of the stages within Left Main? And if the lead did stall, somewhere within one of those stages. Why? Right? So it gives you the ability to analyze, because it might be that between, say, whatever you're naming your stages in Left Main, between stage 2 and 3, the handoff is taking on average 24 hours or more. And we're losing leads because the handoff is too slow between stage 2 and 3. That's a very fixable problem, right? And so that problem, you drop that handoff time down to 60 minutes or less, and you save 60% more of those leads, then that was just an efficiency solve that you were able to see by doing a simple audit within the integration and make a simple correction in order to get a lot more money out of the flow.
Yeah, and and kind of in that same vein with the different stages triggering back and forth. So let's say you have a lead that you contacted right away. Let's say best case scenario, you contacted them right away. They're not super ready to move forward yet. They're trying to feel this out, trying to decide if they want to sell their house or not, but they're not motivated enough that you're going to set an appointment, right? What do you do with that lead? You likely put them in a long-term follow-up stage, right? That stage can now trigger a different re-engagement sequence, right? With either a cadence or go straight to launch control and go into a specific campaign drip, or sit in smartphone's smart dialer list, right? Like, why not use all three of those channels to help re-engage that lead? We don't need to stop there, right? Each of those stages can have their own little microcosm of re-engagement sequences, and use all these fantastic tools that help extend human hours, right? Instead of manual. And now what we're committing to manually following up with people and depending on them to respond to one text message or one phone call. No, we want to engage them with all the things that we have.
And to both of your points, I think, that's where that integration, the fact that launch control is integrated into Left Main, the fact that smartphone, smart dialer, et cetera, are integrated, it means that you'll have that data, to Michael's point, to analyze and find out where gaps are and find out where best modeling of behavior for your activities, for your agents, et cetera, can be. And if you've got that data, your opportunity to do that is exponential, versus if you don't have that data, your opportunity to do that is pretty nil. And you end up guesswork as opposed to making fact-based decisions. And that's a critical part of, if you're going to scale the business. If you're one person on your own, okay, well, you can probably get away with a lot of guesswork because, hey, you're just going kind of by the seat of your pants. But if you are trying to build a properly scalable business, this is a kind of a non-negotiable.
Yeah,
So,
and go ahead, Stephanie.
I was just gonna say that's what it takes these days. It's a very competitive market with low inventory and lots of options, and especially on the agent side with commission changes. Like, this is what it takes. You have to have a handle on this.
Yeah, and use your tools. Remember, for the homeowner, if they have a connection point to your company, right, you can use different tools to gap fill for time, right? So if you know, for instance, that your lead manager isn't going to be able to follow up on a lead that the BDR pushed over for, a day or more because of personal reasons, but you're using that drip automation that I showed earlier that's bringing value and kind of answering some of the frequently asked questions in the meantime, you still have the captive attention of the homeowner. They're still getting value-based messaging from your company, so that when the lead manager is able to get on the call, there hasn't been a gap in time. And two, you've pre-answered some of the questions that lead manager was going to need to answer anyway. So they can really kind of get into the solution-based part of the conversation and out of the validation-based part of the conversation, right? So think of ways to gap fill with the existing tools so that it creates a really good user experience for the homeowner. Great
point. I want to dive in now a little. Oh, there's an image that's not happy for me. Is anybody else?
Okay. Not seeing it now.
Not seeing that image. Well, that's not as happy as I want it to be.
Canva, don't let us down, Canva.
I know, right? Canva is not making me happy on this one. Let me just quickly bring it up. I'm pretty sure it's this one. It doesn't really matter all that much. Let's pretend, right? Let's do a quick Canva on its, I don't even know how to do that, so I'm not going to pretend I do. So just quickly, and I hope that the next slide has a similar one. So I want to dive into a few things related to this idea of when I first we started this discussion, we talked a little bit about the pigeonholing of the different communication streams. And one of the ones that I see suffering from that a lot is smart dialer. Because people, for most people, people are like, oh man, I need to get smart dialer so that I can tee up a bunch of cold leads and hit them as hard as possible. And that's it. That's all they think about. And the truth is that you actually have a really great opportunity to use a tool like Smart Dialer across a lot of different parts of the lead cycle. Of course, if you're at the colder or you're just trying to get some new prospects in place, of course, Smart Dialer is great. You can load up an Excel spreadsheet straight into it and then only push the leads that have actually, been qualified over to your Left Main system, so you can rapidly go through those. But it's actually the follow-up where I think Smart Dialer, and particularly the integration with Left Main, where the power really comes in. And that's because with the integration with Left Main, we can, as you see here on the right, you can actually create in less than a few minutes, you can create a dialing list with Smart Dialer by reaching into your Left Main system and grabbing from the different object types, leads or accounts, opportunities, grabbing the lists that you want, and have your agent up and dialing in minutes. And that means that you can start thinking of Smart Dialer also as an efficiency tool for the follow-up. So instead of, yeah, I got these 100 leads and I got to click and call and do all that, Smart Dialer and the integration with Left Main means that you have that opportunity to build up a really efficient follow-up that takes you across the other stages of your lead nurturing cycle, not just your cold prospects. And you can use them for both. And that, going to the point that Michael and Stephanie has been making around all those different communication channels, you can layer in Smart Dialer because of that capability, because of the integration, because of the fact that you can grab specific leads from Left Main. You can do that really quickly, including, for instance, a launch control campaign where you are working on leads. You can grab that into Smart Dialer and engage with those people in another method. And then you've got the best of all worlds.
You know what I love about this is I want to like break the cycle of having different Excel sheets that we're uploading everywhere, right? Like I won't totally, rain on that parade because I think there's a use case for it, but like, why do we have to keep doing that? I hate that. I hate having to export and import stuff all the time. And with this integration, I think it's amazing because you don't have to export anything. It's already in one system. So like, let's say it's in launch control. Well, now it's available in smartphone and Smart Dialer. You don't have to go export things again and have all these different lists and various stages of data integrity, like all these numbers. I don't have numbers on this one. I don't. You have one center of truth and it connects to all these things. And now you can use these tools kind of cross platform like this. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to upload. You already have the list view in Left Main. Grab your follow-up leads, grab today's leads, grab your 30-day follow-ups and just call them. You don't even have to, export, import anything, which makes me very excited because I have a specific vendetta against the spreadsheet. Everything should be API, abide, right? So I love that part.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to remember, especially as you get bigger as a company, is that the homeowner has no idea that what CRM you're using. They have no idea what text tool you're using. They have no idea what phone system that you're using. All they know is that they are in a negotiation or a conversation with your company. So you want to make them feel that, right? And the bigger that you get, the easier it is to slip into a place where they feel like they're in a system, right? They feel like they're on the factory belt and moving through the system. That creates a poor user experience. Whereas if you do something as simple as framing the text thread is just an open channel to your whole team, and your whole team can access it. And so you really just text from that number. But the lead manager, but you're not going to call it the lead manager, but the solutions expert or whatever you're calling them is going to call from a different number. That's all part of company structure, right? They're not seeing that as a factory passed from tool to tool situation. That's just the functionality of your company, right? The text is to get to everyone. The call is to have a deeper conversation, and it's a very clear kind of business processes system, as opposed to a factory system for leads, in which they absolutely don't want to feel like they're caught in that.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, Michael, to your point there, I think that's really important as well, because you made the point of the visibility. Given that we know, your CRM is ultimately the hub of all activity. It's the place where organization and management happens. As Stephanie says, it should be your single source of truth, because these different channels are dropping those into the CRM. Because if you've called them with smartphone and texted them with launch control, if you've called them with smart dialer and had a voicemail with smartphone or whatever it is, because it's all there, you also have that visibility, so that if someone is engaging, because say one of the people is out sick for a week and someone else is going to engage, you've got that history, you understand it, and so you're not coming at it blind when you're discussing it with the customer. They're not feeling like, oh, what do you mean? I've already talked to you. Why are you asking me these dumb questions? I already answered them. You've got that thread there. You've got the history, and they never are going to feel like they're just a number in your pipeline, because that history and the visibility of the communication is there. I think that's a critical thing to make sure you're not feeling like I'm just a number in this person's pipeline, or I'm just getting hit time and time again. That's fine. All my videos, all my Canva has let me down in a massive way on this one. Why? I have no idea, since they're in the preview. But one of the things I wanted to show, and it's kind of here, I'm going to on the fly pretend. There's me. I'm going to pretend like I've got it. And
It's like the all-time worst timing for Canva to be asking that experience-related question.
Right? Not good, Canva.
Leave it slide. No.
Yeah. And what's a shame is that what's a particular shame is that our design lead inside a smartphone, who is absolutely brilliant and did all the previous slides, will eventually kill me tomorrow, because she didn't do these ones, and she's probably going to be like, hey, yeah, you know why I do all these things? I'm better than you by a country mile. So why don't you just knock it off, Jordan? And she'd be right. But one of the things I also I wanted to sort of point out around this is you've going across all these channels and having them here. You can see, if you can see on the screen here, understanding when a new call's been logged. And now, for instance, video calling is live in smartphone. So, for those of you who are doing wholesaling and for the most part are trying to be efficient and doing a lot of it virtually, you've now got the ability to switch to video. You could be on a call with someone, switch to video, nothing for them to download. And if you're a Smartphone Pro customer, that video call can be recorded, and bang, the link to that recording inside of your Left Main CRM in seconds after the call. Now, that is just another way, as another example of how these different streams can suddenly give you the whole picture of the relationship, and you can utilize them hugely effective. Now, I'm really excited about the video calling, because I think for wholesaling in particular, and also, if you're doing fix and flips, or you're in, you're holding things and you've got property management issues, being able to jump on a video call, see it, record it, and have it straight in your CRM is going to give you an enormous extra level of power of understanding, and extra level of power to make your best decisions. And again, because it's fully integrated with Left Main, you've got all of that stuff stacked up directly on your leads, directly on your opportunities, etc. Stephanie, I know you and I've talked a lot about the video calling opportunities. I'm really excited to finally get it. It's coming out of beta. It's in beta right now. For those of you who are smartphone customers, it's coming out of beta very, very soon, because we've now got it pretty much smoothed out. What are your thoughts on that sort of getting that stream in there as well?
I mean, I think it's amazing. I love the face to face of a FaceTime call or a video call. And it, a picture says 1,000 words. Especially if you're on the phone with a homeowner and you're trying to figure out how you can help them with their house. Like, show me the kitchen, right? And then I can have that recording in my system. That's amazing, right? There's no disputing that. So I think it's incredible.
I think it's
It's not like
pretty
buried the
powerful. Go
lead.
ahead.
Like, you just made this big announcement. You're coming off beta. 45 minutes into this call. Those who stuck
This is
around.
my one more thing, right? This
Yeah,
is
yeah. And then,
didn't Steve
yeah.
Jobs used to do his one more thing, and and then it was suddenly like, by the way, we're making a phone. Like, whoa, that's a big one more
Yeah.
thing. This is my one more thing. Sorry, Michael, I talked over you. I apologize.
Oh, no, not at all. No, I love this. It's something that I think is sorely missing in the real estate investment space, and that is the testimonial. Right? If you do a search on YouTube or anywhere online, you can find 100,000 people telling you how to find an off-market deal. But if you're a homeowner and you want to find information about what the process was like going through and working and getting an off-market deal, good luck. Right? So that helpful experience, that experience of if showing that there are solutions where the investor really is helping people out, really is giving them, an amount of money and a timeline and an exit that they didn't think that they would have had otherwise is something that, again, I think is sorely missing. And if you can add this as just part of your functionality and you're capturing those recordings, you can, again, using your marketing channels together, you can reuse them. Back in that slide that I opened with showing that value-based drip automation, the last message in that said, here's a link to our YouTube channel where we focus on some testimonials with homeowners. Take a look. I think it'll give you insight on the experience, right? So you're able to take those video recordings, you save them, and then you can send those to people that are kind of on the fence, and it gives them a human experience. It lets them see who you are as an investor, the intentions behind what you're doing, and the homeowner experience. So they see that they're in for, a ride that is beneficial and not, again, factory based.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, let's go, folks. It is now, and quite honestly, it's coming towards the end of the webinar. And I think maybe what I'd like to do is, because we are going to, if for those people who have registered but we're not able to attend, which is usually the case, people register to get the recording, and that's great. We are going to be making sure that the recording gets out. We're going to make sure the links to Launch Control and Left Main and how you can get involved with smartphone, Launch Control, Left Main. We're going to make sure all that's there. I want to maybe close off the conversation, and I will stop sharing at this point. This is where I break everything, right? So I want to close off the webinar and maybe just get a final thought from each of us to close out. And just to put you on the spot, Stephanie, I'm going to start with you. So you, then Michael, and I'll give myself the longest time to think.
This is like Jerry Springer. We're like, final thoughts on.
One last thing, Jerry. I'll take the Steve Jobs versus the Jerry Springer. That dates us, by the way. That dates us. There's a lot of people who don't know who Jerry Springer is.
We should, we should position ourselves younger. No, my final thoughts are that I'm super excited to collaborate with both of you. These are the combination of our three tools is super common across all of our customer base. So I think it's just amazing to put together a little presentation like this to show everybody how to really leverage these things, and maybe give them some ideas on where they can further leverage, right? Maybe open the mind a little bit on how we can use these tools for re-engagement, and maybe everyone here learned something they didn't know that all these tools did. So I'm always excited to work with both of you, and I'm excited for all the things that we have in development and for the future as well. And to our audience, this is what it takes. Like, you need to have a layered approach. You need to be really cognizant of your tools and how to best leverage them. So, it may seem almost cliche to say, but use the tools that you have and make sure that you're using them to the fullest potential that they have. And if you have questions about this and you want to reach out to anybody, any of our teams, we're all super happy to help you cross collaborate and use lots of different tools to make you successful. That's what we're all here for, is to make you extremely successful and to be able to be more efficient and close more deals.
Michael?
Yeah, I'm going to echo much of the same, but on the prospecting side, texting is doing really well. People are closing thousands of deals per month, not individuals, across the platform. Thousands of deals per month are being closed across the platform. And while I'm proud of that and happy about that, the thing that I'm convinced is the future of the real estate investment industry is balance. It's using all of your tools together so that you're lowering, in some cases, your prospecting number, but you're upping your efficiency on other marketing channels, and you're upping the amount of people that are opting in for solutions, because solutions are being provided. And so you've got people coming to you as motivated leads, and you're using launch control as a conversion funnel. You're using Smart Dialer as a conversion tool, and you're using Left Main to track all of that and to keep it all in that centralized view. And we end up at much more mature marketing and a better experience for homeowners. And I think that's all coming sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. I think that's a great point. And for me, my view is specificity and nuance always wins the day versus just throwing things at the wall. And that is true for pretty much every part of a sales process. And, so people, when we were preparing for this webinar, someone was asking me, well, why, you're doing a webinar with launch control, aren't they competitors? Like, no. We work really well next to each other. We work really well next to each other, and you got to stop thinking about it. You got to start thinking about your communication channels as that integrated whole. And and that's why I'm so excited about being able to break this down a little, because I think, when I see the best in class real estate investment companies, when I see the people who are really crushing it and building strong process driven businesses, I see them thoughtful about how they're nurturing leads, thoughtful about their sales process, and thoughtful about their communication channels, and understanding where to leverage them and how to move them forward. And I think that's, if there was a takeaway I would want to say is, there is no lack of amazing tools for you right now as a real estate investor. There is only how you use them in a thoughtful way to get the most out of them. And that is where, building it in the strong understanding of how launch control, smartphone, smart dialer, voice calling, and all of that can work within your Left Main CRM. Understanding that is going to take you down the road. And if you don't do that, you're going to be spinning your wheels. You're probably going to be spending more money and losing a lot of it. And you're not going to be able to really build that engine that can drive a scaled business. And that's, to me, that's hugely exciting, because everything's there. You just have to approach it in the right way. And I know that Michael and his team, Stephanie and her team, and of course the amazing team at smrtPhone, we've got people, including the three of us, who are here to talk to you, here to help, here to give guidance and insight. And I do encourage you to get in touch with all three companies. We've got amazing teams who can help you. And I think all the opportunities there, you just have to have a methodical and thoughtful approach. And I think that's going to take you there. So I want to thank Stephanie and Michael for joining us tonight. Such a pleasure to speak to both of them. And thank you so much for bringing such value to all of the customers and all the people who are watching this recording.
Yeah, thanks for having us on. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, folks, and have a good night.